Welcome to the CompTIA A+ 220-1101 or Core 1 exam. This is Objective 3.6, Multifunction Devices. A multifunction device is an output device that's commonly abbreviated as MFD, or multifunction device. These devices can perform many different functions, including printing, scanning. They could be a fax machine, because fax is indeed still used even today, network connectivity, phone line connectivity, and printing from the web. From a technician's perspective, it's important to know that these are complex devices with many moving parts. It is very possible that you'll be spending at least some of your time maintaining a multifunction device. Multifunction device may not be the small device that you buy from an office supply store and install at your home. Instead, it might be a much larger device that's used in the enterprise environment. These are very often will need to be installed in a particular area with proper amount of power, network connectivity, and accessibility so that everybody can gain access to the system. To use one of these multifunction devices, you'll need the appropriate driver installed in your operating system so that it knows how to print, fax, scan, or perform any of those other functions on that multifunction device. Just as you would choose the correct hardware driver for your operating system, you would choose the correct print driver for your operating system as well. So if you're using Windows 10, you would get a print driver specifically built for Windows 10. You also want to be sure you have the right version of the print driver. If you're running a 32-bit system, you would need a 32-bit driver. If you're using 64-bit, then you need a 64-bit driver. As you can probably see from this explanation, you can't really mix and match drivers. You have to make sure you're using the specific one that's built for your operating system and your version. Most printers will be able to communicate with your system using one of the two different printer languages. One is PCL, or the Printer Command Language. This was created by Hewlett-Packard for their laser printers, but it is used on many different printers throughout the industry. Another popular printer language is PostScript, that was created by Adobe Systems. This is a printer language that was originally designed for the very high-end printing and printing that was done in print houses. These days you'll find PostScript used on many different types of printers that are used for many different purposes. To make things even more complicated, some printers can be configured to communicate via PCL. They can also be configured to communicate using PostScript. So you want to make sure that the right driver matches the right configuration. For others to be able to print to this multifunction device, they will need to be able to physically communicate to that system. And one way is over a wire. One of the very common ways to connect to a printer is using USB, or the Universal Serial Bus. And one common connector on a printer might be the USB Type B connector. You would also see maybe a Type A connector on your computer, and it connects with the Type B interface. The other type of connections I see on printers are also RJ45s. It's very common to network your printer onto a network. This allows you to print across the network and you won't need to deal with any USB connectivity at all. If you have a printer that's near your location, you might want to use Bluetooth. But of course, Bluetooth does have a limited range. And if this printer is down the hall, a Bluetooth connection may not be the best choice. Instead, you might want to use 802.11, which is the wireless network we commonly use with an access point. We refer to the use of 802.11 and an access point as infrastructure mode, so that you can have everyone in your local area use this access point to be able to communicate to the printer. But you could also configure wireless communication to be a one-on-one relationship. Using 802.11 in ad hoc mode, that means that there's no access point and that would be nothing to communicate with. Instead, a single device is able to communicate directly to that individual multifunction device. So once you install a multifunction device and you get connected to it, either with a wire or wirelessly, you'll be able to access different things and settings on this printer. We can do this by sharing the printer. For example, take a look at the share tab I have on this Canon. One way to do that in Windows is to create a share through Windows and share it as a printer. This allows you to physically connect the printer to your computer and tell the computer you want to allow everyone to print to this printer through your computer. Here's the properties of a Canon, like I was explaining earlier. You can go through the sharing tab of this chosen printer and provide the name of it. You can render jobs to it. It'll have a share name you can specify, and you can control different settings. If you don't want to share a printer through a computer this way, another good alternative is a print server. This is usually software that's running on the printer itself, which allows people to print directly to the printer without needing a third person's computer in the middle. Jobs are queued directly on the printer, and if you need to manage, delete, or add any jobs from that management page to the printer itself to provide this management. There's usually a web-based front end for the printer itself, or there might be an executable you install in your operating system to be able to manage it through a client. When you send your job to a printer, there are a number of different options available. One really interesting one is duplex. Duplex will allow you to send print jobs to a printer, and the printer will use both sides of the page in order to save paper. Not all printers have a duplex option, but it should be available on most. You'll have to check the print dialog and look through the different options to choose, and you can select portrait mode, you can select landscape, so it can go from top to bottom, from bottom to the side. You can set it to portrait or landscape. On larger printers, especially in workplaces, you'll have options to choose a particular tray. Printers can have different trays, different types of paper. Some can have 8.5 by 11. Some use legal paper for longer size prints. Sometimes you might have to physically look at the printer trays to see what printer paper will be there. You can see it from properties sometimes, and it might be configured by an administrator this way. This particular printer has letter paper, and you can see the print quality and the graphics 600 by 600. You can see different document options and different features below in this dialog. There's all kinds of different quality and resolution that you can choose and select on your printer. Authentication is a big concern, especially in a larger workplace. The reason why you might want to limit how much toner or ink we might be printing to is that it's really expensive, and we can manage the maximum amount of use of toner, and that will save you in the long run. This also means that you might not want everyone in the office to print to the same printer. Some printers will be more expensive than others. Maybe they have color setting, or maybe they use expensive toner. So you can choose printer properties and go to Security tab. You can see different users and different groups who have access to these different devices, and you can manage the print jobs this way. Also becoming more common is people to have IDs or badges, and they can authenticate to the printer itself before they use it. If there's problems with the printer process, you may need to look at different logs to understand what happened. It's pretty easy to audit logs to see different users who've used the printer, and you can go back and figure out exactly when and what happened to diagnose issues further. You may also want to have this option on to see the different cost ratios of users using the printer in different environments. You can also look at Windows Event Viewer if you're troubleshooting issues with printing as well. Some printers also support a feature called Secured Prints. This is built into the Windows where you have an ID number or a password that you have to specify, and in order to retrieve the job, you must use that same password or code. Our multifunction devices are not only good at providing us with printed output, but we're also able to take these printed pages and use them as input by using the flatbed scanner that's in the multifunction device. The scanner allows the multifunction device to read information that's on the page and then save it to a digital file. There's often integrated an automatic document feeder, so you could take a large stack of papers and run them through the feeder, and they could scan multiple pages at one time. With most multifunction devices, you could decide what happens with that scanned image. It might be a scan that goes directly to your email or someone else's email. We could also scan to a particular folder that might be a file server. With Windows, you can also use SMB or server message block to save to a network share. You could also send all of this to a Microsoft share that's on a centralized server. I can think of something like maybe OneDrive could be integrated with the scanner. You may have a multifunction device that scans an image to the cloud even. Other examples of cloud scanning would be like Google Drive or Dropbox or iCloud even. So it's becoming more common these days. What should you check first if a flatbed scanner is not working? A. Reinstall the driver. B. Reinstall the scanning software. C. Check the warranty. Or D. Unlock the lock button. And I recently missed one of these on my exams. I didn't even know that there's a lock button. So I did find on Canon and HP and different scanners that you can use a lock button to prevent people from scanning. It's pretty clever. Thank you for watching.